Good afternoon and welcome to the College of Continuing and Professional Studies webinar, Healthy Work Habits. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you all here this afternoon. My name is Shanta and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. I'm delighted to introduce the topic for today's webinar, Healthy Work Habits. Daily stressors in the workplace can take a toll on our physical and mental health, especially during times of change and uncertainty. This webinar draws from research by top universities and the National Institutes of Health to provide practical insights and tips for improving your overall well-being. During this interactive session, you'll discover healthy habits you can easily incorporate into your workday, such as gratitude practices, thought hygiene, deskercising, and smallerizing. Well, you'll also gain a better understanding of your personal workplace habits and how they impact your health. By the end of this webinar, you'll walk away with actionable tips, including maintaining a health work-life balance, strategies for mitigating stress, and suggestions for initiating team conversations and healthy workplace habits. It's a pleasure to introduce the presenter for today's webinar, Carolyn Morris. Carolyn has applied psychology and business insights to challenges faced by leaders and teams as an organizational consultant, speaker, and coach focusing on candor, accountability, and change for more than 30 years. Carolyn, thank you so much for being here with us today, and I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shanta. I want to start with appreciation for you and the whole team, Courtney, Grayson, and everyone else who makes these wonderful, applicable webinars happen and run smoothly. So thank you so much for that. Second, I want to welcome everyone who is in this room. I really appreciate you making time and prioritizing professional development through reflection and through commitments that I hope you will make to keep doing certain things that you're already doing in order to handle the stresses and all the changes that professional and personal life may hand you, as well as find some new tips and insights that you're willing to commit to put to practice immediately and consistently. And we never want to overdo it. So 2 or 3 things would already be a really good start. So there are 3 parts to our conversation today. Part 1 is insights into your workplace habits. And those insights, for the most part, you cannot share with each other or me because we are already 480 people in this room, but I do invite you to reflect and jot down insights and personal commitments. So I also want to clarify that all the images that I use in this presentation are royalty free, and you can get those at the website called Pixabay. So let's get going here. This is the most filled slide that you will see in this presentation. So let me run you through this. This is one way, dear professionals, regardless of your industry, your level, this is one way of many to look at all the workplace habits that are either, according to you, in the bucket of healthy or not so healthy or not so effective. So you see several categories. The first one is personal. So that's about you, your beautiful, unique you. And even though we so often say that there is so much that we humans have in common, and I believe that to be true, there is also so much that makes you uniquely different from everyone else in your workplace, in your personal life, and in this room, which is still growing, I see. So personal is about your character, your core qualities, those things that are really at the core of you and that you can only learn to dial up or dial down. So that includes personality aspects and certain traits, such as introversion or extroversion, perfectionism, assertiveness, or lack thereof. And of course, these are also related to skills with which we can mitigate whatever we think is not helpful as as it turns into a habit that may not be an effective one in general, or maybe in your very unique, specific role in an organization, or even in your personal life, family, group of friends. So, number two is situational aspects. These could be temporary personal circumstances of being in transition from one role to the next or one organization to the next. It could be some health concerns that you or someone else is dealing with. It could be concerns around finance. It could be concerns about having to move your family for a new job or a new relationship, having to move your family from state to state or city to city, or like we did with our family a couple times intercontinentally. So the third piece is efficiency and effectiveness practices. Now, the University of Minnesota and the College of Continuing and Professional Studies offers, as you may know, some really great courses. One of them I'm so honored to teach, and it's around this third bucket. It's on efficiency and effectiveness practices. At the end of this presentation, of this conversation, you will see this course mentioned and the dates. This is all about skills that you can improve, that help you be more organized, that help you with priority and goal setting and sticking with it. It helps you with time estimation skills. I don't know about you, I chronically tend to, if I'm not conscious about it, tend to underestimate how long something takes. And if you do that even just a couple of times on any given day, that will lead likely to stress due to not being able to deliver everything that you thought or promised to deliver. So piece of this is also rejuvenation habits, and Shanta already alluded to the gratitude practices, and something that we like to call deskercising. So doing exercises at your desk. Bucket number 4, organization and department characteristics. You see a couple mentioned here. Unless you're at a position where you can influence these matters, it's hard for us to talk about how to change an organization or how to change the culture of an organization or of a department. Yet I do strongly believe that by the way you show up, you have at least some influence, because attitudes are contagious, emotions are contagious, positivity habits are contagious, thoughts that we verbalize and the quality of those thoughts are contagious. So if we make them all to be in the healthy habits and thoughts and actions bucket, we will have some influence. And then number 5, do you ever have people that are pushing your buttons? And I'm sure if this were a live session, I would see people nod. Yes, we all have certain types of people or specific people who tend to push our buttons. And I want to reference a quote by Carl Jung, who said, "Everything that irritates you about others teaches you about you." Because it's always in the interaction. It's always in the dynamic between two people. That's not to say that you have to blame yourself, that you are the only one who is accountable, but it does mean that you have a role to play in working to change a ineffective dynamic. And you see some examples here mentioned of what other people could be doing that presses your hot buttons. So I invite you to share in the Zoom chat some of what you perceive to be your healthy and or unhealthy workplace habits. Please do make clear whether you are listing a couple of healthy and or unhealthy workplace habits, because some of the factors that influence your very health and well-being, both professionally and personally, are a couple of these. And I'm only mentioning 3 categories: our post-pandemic world, which looks very different than pre-pandemic for most of us, if not for all of us. And then a world that I think most of us would call socially, politically, technologically, and globally uprooted. That was the most neutral word I could think of. And then there are job and organization related changes. They can be small and they can be big. And it includes day-to-day hassles, such as traffic jams, such as scouring for a workplace, such as going from one virtual meeting to another, which can be really draining, and many other examples. And that's things that may be going on in your personal life, small and big things, as I already mentioned. Okay, I love your responses. Thank you so much, dear participants. Excellent. Yes, snoozing, taking stretch breaks quite often. Yeah, shoulders, hamstrings, hip flexors. Oh, I love it. Excessive caffeine as a bad habit. Yeah, that's what experts say. I'm not an expert in that arena, but I believe it to be true. Unhealthy, trying to multitask. Yes, we like to think we can. As part of the priority time and energy management course that I facilitate, we talk about multitasking is impossible. We think we do, but we switch between tasks. That drains our energy. Checking for emails after hours. Yes, focus can be a challenge. Share stories about self to a manager. Oh yeah, eating lunch at your desk, which means you didn't switch to a different environment, and which means that you don't really take a break. Oh, I like the healthy habit of attentiveness during meetings. Taking breaks, reading an article. Yeah, checking Slack after hours is something that you might want to change. Team lunches or activities, I love it, and flexible schedules. Listening to music, I really appreciated Grayson's music earlier. Music can do so much for us, and for some it means more than others. Procrastination is a habit that might not work very well. Perfectionism is great until it isn't anymore. So I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I invite you to look at some resources about healthy and unhealthy, sometimes labeled as neurotic perfectionism. Okay. Yeah. Intolerance, yes, and biases, absolutely. Okay, you have some great examples here. Back-to-back Zoom meetings, yes. All right. Excellent. Well, keep sharing and please keep looking at these. Yeah, Annika, let's aspire to recover from self-directed perfectionism. Great, you guys. Well, keep talking in the chat and with each other. I think that's really helpful to share. So I'll give you some examples of unhelpful habits, but you don't even need them because you see them when others show them, demonstrate them, and you clearly are willing, all of you, to self-reflect. So here are just a couple. Does anyone recognize ruminating rather than problem solving? Does anyone recognize beating around the bush and sugarcoating? Could have a really positive intention, maybe preserving the relationship, maybe avoiding to hurt someone, yet addressing things in a respectfully candid and transparent manner is, if you learn how to do that, I believe to be the most respectful thing. And of course, what someone perceived to be respectful candor is in the eye of the beholder. So me being from the Netherlands, the Dutch people are known to be generally, and that is a gross oversimplification, and it's stereotyping a people. Yet it is true that a lot of Dutch people, as opposed to certain cultures and people from Asia or from Minnesota, where I'm speaking from, that Dutch people, more than certain other groups, speak their minds freely, stay away from sugarcoating and beating around the bush. And I think if we marry that with the right kind of what is called Minnesota nice, with the right kind of caring and empathizing with someone's position. So tailoring the candid message to what you know about your colleague or your loved one or your boss or your direct report, that is where I think we can gain a lot when it comes to not letting stress and irritations build up. Because if you and I sugarcoat and beat around the bush, we allow the person to walk away with whatever it is that they would like to walk away with. And maybe we even allow them to walk away in confusion or maybe in anger. Well, I am sure you have multitasked by now. So overscheduling rather than planning or saying no. There are many different ways of saying no, which we address in that same course that I referenced. You can say, no, not within this time frame, or no, not under these conditions. I would be able to take on this task under those conditions and within this time frame. So just two examples. Avoiding rather than confronting situations. I already addressed that a little bit with the sugarcoating. Skipping lunch, you talked about that. Sedentary life. Many of you have healthy habits where you stand, as I am doing right now, or where you do stretches during your work or during a break, even better. And then negative orientation as opposed to a realistically positive orientation. And we will talk about that a little more later. So I don't often reference one of my countrymen, but in this case I do. You see a link at the bottom of this slide. I think that it's really important for us to realize that if we overdo something that is one of our core qualities, it can turn into a pitfall. It can have negative side effects that we might not always realize. So you have three examples here. Self-criticism can be a good thing. And if you do that to the extreme, it can lead to putting yourself down, to stress, to a negative thought cycle. And that's why later we will talk about thought hygiene. Second example, being helpful and kind. Would I really appreciate, and I'm sure you would as well, all of you, if everyone in this world were helpful and kind? Yes, it's a great thing, not just a good thing. And excessive helping, excessive kindness can lead to you having a hard time communicating boundaries, standing up for yourself, and maybe addressing those or starting those hard conversations. Third example, independence is really a good thing, right? Yet hyper independence, overdoing too much of that originally good thing, can lead to you not asking for help, which can increase your stress. So that could be one of those not so healthy work habits. And it could lead to unnecessary challenges and hurdles that you would have to take. Another example is confidence. I think we probably all agree that confidence is really valuable in personal and professional life, in whatever role you play in your organization at whatever level, as well as in your personal life. And confidence gone overboard, so the excessive part of it, can be perceived by others as cocky or a know-it-all attitude, or maybe a lack of being receptive to feedback. One last example, passion and drive. I think, and I like to think you might join me in that thought, are really great. And if we dial that up too much, it can lead to showing up a little bullheaded, maybe showing up pushy, maybe being obsessed with certain results and delivery. And that can also easily lead to burnout. So I invite you all to think of some of what you believe to be your core qualities and think about what would an excess of that quality look like. You might not immediately notice it, but other people likely do notice it. And again, this is a beautiful dance between two people because what I may label as excessive self criticism in one of you, maybe the next person says, no, I think that's still healthy. So it is about what you believe to be in your way of healthy workplace habits, of good, solid stress management, and of effective handling of all the changes and uncertainties that were dealt on a daily or at least weekly basis. So I invite you to go to this website, and don't worry, it's in English. You don't have to learn to read Dutch first. So a sign of our time is uncertainty, right? A couple of things that I would like you to know about uncertainty before we head into 7 categories of healthy workplace habits. Your and my brain really does not like change, uncertainty, and unpredictability. Even those of you who are thinking right now, and I am part of that group, who generally really appreciate certain changes and we get energized by it. We don't like things to be the same every single day. I'm known to take different routes to one and the same client if I do consulting work for a client that I've worked with for years. I just like those small changes. I also like bigger changes. I have loved moving internationally through my husband's work, and I've been really blessed with 3 children who, even in the hardest of times, trusted us and found ways to resiliently deal with it eventually. It's not all rosy, of course. But for those of you who recognize that you love certain changes and you don't necessarily seek predictability, these are usually changes that you and I inherently feel that we can manage. But think of a time when a change was thrown your way that you didn't ask for and or you didn't see coming, and it was hard to manage. Your and my brain is wired to dislike those situations and those periods in life. And that aversion to uncertainty seems to be, I'm not a neuroscientist, but having looked at a lot of the studies, it seems to be hardwired in what I like to call our reptilian brain. So it's something that makes you human. And I assume everyone in the room is human, but maybe these days with AI, we shouldn't assume that anymore. But if you have a dislike for uncertainty, that makes sense. That's how your brain is wired. And the reason is we want to be successful. And when things are predictable, at least to a certain extent, and are within our control, at least to a certain extent, that helps us self-protect and it helps us be successful. So really, what you can take away from this, the brain translates your and my brain uncertainty into a kind of pain that needs to be avoided. And so discomfort with change, which is human, is not what we have to fully accept. We can change, fine tune our mindset and our behaviors when we're dealing with change. And that will be one of the categories that we will look at. So, some very unique responses to uncertainty. You, your direct reports, co-workers, boss, loved ones, family members, friends. When they are dealt with uncertainty, these are a couple of the things that you and they may experience: anxiety, stress, frustration, anger, confusion, frustration, dependence. But also, let's not forget, in some situations, you may be excited and feel pushed to be creative and adaptable. So it's not all the Eeyore gray, gloomy cloud above uncertainty, right? You and your colleagues, your loved ones may show these emotions, these sentiments in the ways that you see here listed. So pushing back, what we like to call resistance. I prefer the word reluctance. I think reluctance helps us realize, if we reframe resistance into reluctance, helps us realize that maybe there are things that we can do either for ourselves or for that team member or that family member that helps them embrace it a little easier. There could be physical, mental consequences, health decline. Some people seek excessive reassurance. I remember our kids did that, especially when they were younger and we were moving them again. But a lot of employees do that as well when they are dealing with, for them, unexpected and or undesired departmental, team, or organizational changes. Now, the next one I think is really important for us all to recognize and realize. You and I have a tendency, all of us do, to hear what you want to hear and to hear what fits your narrative about a proposed change, a situation, a specific person, or a group of people. And then last one, withdrawal, feeling all alone in whatever it is that you're handling. So keep these in mind, especially when you like to support other people to create healthier workplace habits. So let's go to the 7 categories. Handling change and uncertainty. We'll talk about a couple of the, this could be a whole course, but let's talk about a couple of the known practical tips that you can apply, and taking care of body and mind. And you wrote it all in the chat. Some in the moment practices as something is happening, maybe in relationship to a colleague. Then a general sense of building your resilience, which is something that I propose that we do on a continuous basis. I already referenced thought hygiene. So I'd love to see a show of hands. Who of you have brushed your teeth today? I hope that if we were in a live audience, everyone would be putting up their hands. And I really urge you to place as much importance on thought hygiene as you hopefully do on dental hygiene, because it improves your thinking, and your thinking improves your sentiments, your relationships. One element of that is reframing and refocusing. I will give you a couple of examples of that. And then partnering with people who you may perceive to be anxious or who call themselves as anxious people or people suffering from certain anxieties. This is one that I've heard from many of my clients that they would like to get some tips on. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of these categories speaks more to you than the others. So focus on that which seems to have value, practical value for your person and your circumstances. So how to handle the storm and the fog of change and uncertainty. First of all, cultivate some, what I like to call certainty anchors. So do you have routines, rituals that add something, whether it's predictability or not having to rack your brain about how to approach something or what to wear or what to eat for breakfast? So add something reliable to your day. And a practice, you can combine this with some of the, which we will talk about later, some of the deskercising exercises. If you start the habit of every morning closing your eyes, taking 3 deep breaths, and sit silently with those breaths while gently pushing away any thoughts about the busy workday or the hard conversation that is coming. That could be a really healthy practice. Second, being kind and forgiving to yourself and hopefully also to others. And I see some great comments. I appreciate your comments in the chat. Talk with a trusted person. And with that one, I challenge you to not always seek out someone who thinks like you. Of course, it's a very human preference to do that because we feel a deep connection with people who think like us. We think we probably can trust those people. Yet, if you really want to get new or different perspectives, also seek out someone that you do trust and who generally thinks differently about challenges or workplace behaviors or interactions with so-called difficult people. So I challenge you, not just go to think-alikes. Number 4, journal about it. One of my backgrounds is in clinical psychology, a master's degree, as well as industrial psychology and education. But what we know from so many therapy forms is that anything that includes writing, journaling, is more effective than any form of therapy that does not include writing or journaling. A gratitude journal is a great way to end your day. So there is a book that gives you just the prompts, and I believe it's in your the book list that I have at the end. And it asks you to write down, and the prompt every day is, today I am grateful for. And it has that line on each page 3 times. So you write 3 specific things that you're grateful for. And it's not about my wonderful husband, wife, partner. No, it's about the cup of coffee that I unexpectedly was handed this morning. So you want to make it specific. It can be big things and small things. Number 5, using reassuring self-talk. One example is, this is a tough nut to crack, and I'm convinced I will find ways to do so. Just one example. You will get some more later. And then apply positive psychology, which is not, just think happy feelings and happy thoughts, and you're going to be fine. That's not what positive psychology is about. It's a science, and it reminds you and I to focus on the things that you can control, even amidst uncertainty, organization, or personal changes. It helps you focus, or it reminds you to focus on what is predictable. And go back to number 1, you can create more predictability by some of those routines. It helps you and I focus on what is working and not just on what is not working, as well as what you are grateful for rather than what bothers you. So when we think of managing apprehensions, your own or other people's, 8 things from separating fact from speculation or interpretation, acknowledging and accepting, not fighting a sentiment, even if you want to change the sentiment around, but it starts with accepting, I am really anxious right now, or I feel extremely frustrated with this situation or person. Then the positive psychology, focus on what you can control, share with a trusted person, but also ask, what worked for you in similar situations. Detox your thoughts, because your beliefs about people and situations and stress matters, and we'll talk more about that soon. Focus on values rather than fears. So whenever there is a fear that creeps back into your heart and your head, ask yourself, hey, what values would I like to focus on right now? Such as gratefulness, kindness, connection. Then face a mountain step by step. Always ask yourself, what is one small thing that I can do right now? Even if you realize there is more than one small thing that you need to do. And the last one, keep that molehill a molehill. And don't turn it into a mountain. Easier said than done, right? So second, taking care of body and mind. And as you will notice, throughout the 7 categories, there will be some repetition. I like repetition because it gives you all and myself good reminders of how important some of these elements are, and they do fit different categories. Getting up, moving, exercising, office exercises, and I will give you several or a link to several. Cleaning and organizing your workspace, especially doing that at the end of the day. There is a lot that we feed our brain that we don't realize. So just like the gratefulness or gratitude journal at the end of the day, when you write down specific things that you're grateful for, your brain will keep focusing on gratefulness, positivity as you're already sleeping. If you go to bed with a worry and with frustration, or while you were ruminating, your brain will do more of that as you are sleeping. The same or similar, probably dynamic applies to cleaning and organizing your workspace. So if everything is ready, even if you still have to do some preparation, if it looks clean, if only things are on your desk that you have planned to work with first, second, and third thing in the morning, it'll look organized and ready. So that is what your brain interprets as certainty, as setting yourself up for success. So I really would like to highlight that. Appreciation and gratitude. Send a handwritten or put a handwritten note on someone's desk. Send someone a grateful, appreciative text. Send someone an email. And please, I think even for, well, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say even for younger generations, nothing beats the handwritten note. And I shouldn't say that so lightly. I am not informed enough, even though we have younger generations amongst our own families. But I do believe that handwritten is really powerful and it shows some more personal investment. Many mindfulness activities, if you search that in your preferred search engine, you will find so many things that you can do in 30 seconds. One of them is just grabbing an object, and I'm just grabbing something that's to the left of me. Just grab an object, anything on your desk or in your space, and just look at it mindfully. Just observe it with more detail than you've ever done. Look at the colors, feel whether it feels cold or warm, and look at the aesthetics, if there are any. Just observe one article for 30 seconds while gently pushing all stressful or distracted thoughts aside. So focus and hyper-focus can slow down our breathing, can help us to focus with the real task that is at hand right after this mini mindfulness activity. And it helps us to stay away from multitasking. Not throughout the whole day, but it's a good exercise. Obviously, proper posture. Some of the comments in the chat earlier were about relaxing certain groups of muscles. Ask yourself, which are the groups of muscles that get tense when I am either really focused, working hard on the time pressure, or feeling stressed out about someone who's been pushing my buttons, or a complicated team meeting that you may have to lead, or complicated technical issue that you are tasked to solve. So do some rolling, make some rolling movements with your shoulders if that's where usually the tension builds up. Roll your ankles, roll your head, all these things that you know to do, but how often do you really do them? Some of you probably on a daily basis. Others may be thinking right now, that's easy. That doesn't cost a lot of time or energy. And then, of course, healthy snacks, nutritious snacks, short breaks, even if they're just 5 minutes. I like to walk around, even if I only have 1 minute or 2 minutes, to just step away from the laptop, even if it is a Zoom meeting to a Teams and back to a Zoom meeting. I like to step away and have a brief change of environment, of stimuli, and wriggle my body a little. Staying hydrated, really important also for focus. So I always have 2 glasses of water next to me. Using certain apps for mini mindfulness or for meditation or for deskercising, and then socializing. And especially in this virtual world, and some of you may be fully back in the office, but I know many people aren't. Do you still prioritize socializing? And even if it is not possible in person? So here you see a link of office exercises, and I like to call it exercising, that you can do at your desk to stay fit. And it doesn't always include to be sitting down and like this little stick figure does. Group number 3, in the moment practices. Someone wrote in the chat earlier, being really aware and present in a meeting. I so applaud that, and it's not easy. Yet, there are ways to get yourself back to the here and now. So what I'd like you to stay away from is judging and condemning yourself when you notice that you've been really distressed or distracted, I mean. Maybe you're in a meeting with one person or a whole team, and your thoughts are completely somewhere else, with a previous meeting or something that you have to tackle tomorrow. If you notice, just smile, be compassionate with yourself, and say, I'm still human. That's okay. And I want to get back to now, here. So take a few deep breaths, slow down those thoughts, and act literally, you've seen me do this a couple of times now. Push your thoughts that are not pertaining to this moment, this conversation, this meeting, push them away. And then from Gestalt psychology, one school of psychology that I was certified in and trained in, ask yourself in the moment awareness questions. And this is all about emotional intelligence, right? What am I really doing right now? For example, in an interaction, am I really listening to the person and trying to understand them? Or am I just being quiet and I'm finding ways to prepare my rebuttal? I am talking right now, but am I talking to complain? Am I talking to problem solve? Am I talking to demonstrate that I feel a victim? The next one, what am I wanting or needing right now? Is that to be heard, to be seen, to be respected? Or is it to be right? And is it to win the argument? And then what am I expecting? Is that realistic? And would that other person think as well that what I expect of them and myself is realistic? And if not, can you adjust? Number 4, building resilience. I saw a link to the Bounce Back project right here in Minnesota. Thank you for that, Tracy. That's a great one indeed. The Penn State University has a great Penn Resiliency project by Martin Seligman, someone that I had to study extensively. He's considered the father of positive psychology. And again, it's a science, it's very practical. So look up any of those resources. But just 7 tips. What fills your bucket? And can you do more of that and consistently? Check in with your mindset and thoughts. Are they helping you or are they harming you? I always like to think of, and I don't always practice this, of course, because I'm as human as all of you, but I like to think of what Brene Brown at a conference in Dallas, Texas once suggested to her audience, and I was fortunate to be one of them. Whenever a thought enters your mind, or whenever a sentence that you're about to utter enters your mind, think of 2 road signs. One says, is this helping? And the other said, is this harming or hurting? And so just knowing which of the two it will be will help you to fine tune, push aside, or rewrite whatever it is that you were about to think about yourself or a person or whatever you were about to say. Putting on different glasses, these will not help me see things very differently. Well, in this case, it does because these are dirty. But putting on different glasses figuratively by thinking from a different perspective, maybe a short and long-term perspective, maybe a detailed lens or a 30,000 feet lens, or maybe from an emotional perspective or from a practical or rational perspective, I think we all would benefit from actively practicing different lenses. Sometimes I activate my inner Johan, one of my first colleagues, senior colleagues, when I started as a consultant long ago, and he had such great different perspectives to look at client challenges and certain behaviors that we witnessed and had to handle on the team. So I regularly activate him and think, what would he be focusing on right now? What would he be seeing? What would he be advising me? So think of people who think differently from you. Stay connected to people who care. And staying connected in person is great, but there are many other ways to do that. Again, examining and detoxing your thinking. Again, that optimism, the positive psychology. And again, I am not asking you to be unrealistically positive when there is a lot going on in your personal and maybe also in your professional life. It has to be realistic. So what is it that truly is still going well for you? And what are you optimistic about? In addition to things that you may not be optimistic about. And then obviously practicing good self-care, healthy snacks, staying hydrated, moving, taking care of quality sleep, etc. So I hope you identified maybe two that you can do more of in order to build resilience and turn those into healthy workplace habits. Now, here we are. I mentioned thought hygiene. So let's talk about that a little more. How can you and I improve the quality of our thinking? So think about it this way, dear professionals and learners. How you label, so the judgment that you put on your own behavior can greatly impact how you feel and what comes next. Whether that is increased frustration and anxiety, whether that is being more distracted and losing focus, whether that is becoming more insecure and less confident. And an example, as you saw here, was a horrible moment in the meeting. Is that helping you? Or is that hurting you, that thought? What does horrible mean? Was it an unpleasant moment in the meeting? Yeah, maybe. So maybe you can turn this into, that was an unpleasant moment in the meeting and I want to keep it a molehill. I'm not going to allow that moment to turn into a mountain. So that's one way of labeling behavior less excessive, less extreme. Same thing goes for how you label someone else's behavior. That is so outrageous. She has no right to talk to me like that. A manager should never act like that. Well, have I thought those thoughts? Yeah. Have you? Likely. Were they helping or were they hurting? I know the answer for myself because whenever I think in those terms, I respond more likely as a victim more likely defensive or combative, or both, and likely I'm focused on the negative. So you all know about confirmation bias, what I already believe to be true about a person or situation guides my brain to hunt for more evidence of my and your preconceived thoughts, beliefs, and narratives. That is not helpful because it likely means that we don't see evidence of the opposite, even if it is just small. So, 3 questions for you to ponder. Are you giving your thoughts so much weight that they start mattering more than they should? I like that one. I'm guilty. Are you aware of the excessiveness of some of your judgments about yourself or others and how consequential they are? And are you fact checking and stress testing your thoughts by, for example, asking yourself, what was really said and done? So remember that separation of fact and speculation, or fact and interpretation. So, to the point of thought hygiene, look at these. Do you recognize any of these thinking distortions or thinking traps, like fanatic perfectionism, generalizing and stereotyping, that absolute need to be liked? I call it the love addiction. Must attacks, a manager must never, a coworker should always, a CEO should never. Well, guess what? They're humans and they show up as they show up. Cannot always change much about that, but I can and you can change how we respond to it. I think of Viktor Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, psychiatrist and concentration camp survivor. One of his very powerful quotes is, "There is one last freedom that no one can take away from you. That's the freedom to choose your response, regardless the situation." And he practiced that quote while detained in the most horrendous of situations, beyond horrendous, in a concentration camp during World War II. So I think that's really powerful. Taking things too personal, gloomy Eeyore disaster thinking, jumping to conclusions. Whoever does that, we don't, right? We're all human, we do, but catch it and then tweak yourself. Make mini corrections and black and white thinking using never and always words, etc. Number 6, reframe and focus. This is a brief one. Change "I will never be able to handle this" into "I have or will find the tools to get through this, even if it is hard." Or "This is an awful situation" into "I don't like this. It makes me feel anxious." And even though I like to see things differently, I know 1 or 2 things that can help me calm down right now. So that is reframing, refocusing, and positive self-talk. And then number 7, partnering with anxious people. And anxious between brackets because I don't think that should be a categorization. But people who you consider to show anxieties, and maybe they themselves do as well. So similar to some of the tips we discussed, help the person minimize the shoulds and face reality. Model putting energy into what can be controlled. So that is modeling that positive psychology. Helping the person focus on small first steps, positive actions. Help the person get unstuck by focusing on self-care and clarity. And again, reframing the situation. And here is another example of how to do that. Just one of many, right? And then phrases that communicate empathy to a person, whether it is someone who appears anxious or whether it's in a hard conversation with someone. A very healthy workplace habit is communicating empathy. And you see 3 examples of statements. If you don't like them, tweak them. I'm sure you have your own. But these are 3 that could be helpful. And then examples of empathetic questions. How can I best support you? What is it that I may not be getting yet? What else should I know about your context? These are really empathetic and helpful and connecting questions. And again, there are many more. So 3 more pieces, briefly, suggestions for team conversations about this. So I think it's healthy to have team conversations if you're in a job and part of a team right now, where you discuss healthy workplace habits. So put that on the agenda and ask people what their specific interests are. Also make it a recurring agenda item and not just a one-off thing. And consider making someone the owner of those discussions and maybe even rotate that ownership. And very practically let people share some of the concerns or the unhealthy workplace habits and maybe how an organizational culture or organizational demands may be partially causing them, but then refocusing on, so what can each of us do differently, because we're not going to immediately change the culture nor the structure of an organization or department. And then share best practices, helpful resources. There are great TED Talks, checklists, YouTube videos. So that's how you can get started. And what might that conversation look like? Well, relate, ask, really listen, and hold back on, oh, yeah, I know about that. First, really explore what someone is sharing. Be as transparent and honest, vulnerable as you want to and can possibly be, and focus on practical things. What's next? What now? And how are you going to do that? Or how are we going to do that? You're all in this together, so share experiences. Make sure that it's clear to everyone what the goal is of these healthy workplace habits discussions. It's to improve stress management. It's to improve well-being. And of course, that requires a safe, mindful, and focused environment. So I'll just leave on here some statements that I believe to be important elements of a mindset for these team conversations. One of them is, we're all in this together. We are all uniquely different. We really are. Let's acknowledge and respect that. And nothing is right, wrong, or weird. It's about everyone's experiences, needs, and best practices. So with that, I want to thank you for your great participation in the chat. And I would love to open it up, Shanta, for any kind of questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Carolyn. I'm definitely going to add some of your suggestions to my mindfulness and self-care, definitely. So yeah, we'll move on to questions. So if folks have any questions, we have time for a few. Please use the Q&A box to submit your questions. And our first is, how do you improve your thought hygiene without gaslighting yourself in actual harmful or abusive behavior in the workplace?
Ooh, what an excellent question. I would like to recommend Andrea Bonior, and she's the first one on this list that you see on your screen right now, with a powerful and practical book, which is called Detox Your Thoughts. If you don't want to read a whole book, I think you can find summaries and blog posts. I think what is really important is starting with self-compassion and not judging the thoughts that you may know are not helpful, and finding a gradual step-by-step process to detox. And again, in this book, it explains how to do that. Real simple question: helpful or harmful? What was really said and done? Is it really, are these words really fitting the situation? Either the words that you use to judge yourself or someone else or an interaction. So these are a couple of the practical tips. The third book on your screen, How to Keep People from Pushing Your Buttons, is a very practical book as well, by Albert Ellis, a New York psychologist and I think social worker, but the latter I'm not sure. who unfortunately passed away in 97. That's
Mm.
a great book. Any other questions, Shanta?
Yeah, I think we'll just do one more. We're right at
Mhm.
1 p.m. So if anyone has to go, thank you again for joining. The next question we have is, I love the idea of healthy workplace conversations. We have tried facilitating these topics. However, people seem reluctant to share. What are some ways to
Mhm.
develop a safe
Mhm.
and comfortable environment for sharing our thoughts and feelings?
Mhm. Mhm. Excellent question. Well, I would like to know whether other topics also are difficult to discuss on that team. If it is specifically this one, that would make me really curious. So asking the question, hey, team members, hey guys, what would need to happen for us to feel comfortable and safe to share both unhealthy as well as healthy workplace practices? So invite everyone to share what would need to happen, what would have to be different.
Mm.
What often helps is asking people to submit things in writing to have them think about it beforehand. There is a lot of neurodiversity between and amongst us. Some people are quick responders, others are not the opposite of quick is slow, but are processors. So don't think quick responder, oh, then we have a slow responder. No, we have quick processors, and we have people who process at a very different pace, very deeply, have great content, but might not share so quickly. So if there is not enough time for preparation, submitting, or for silence, then those people will not share. But I
Mhm.
think the most profound thing is to invite people to ask, hey, or to submit their responses to what would have to happen for us to have better conversations around this.
Right. Yeah, thank you. So we'll just wrap up on the questions, and then if you can go to the next slide.
Yes.
Great. So as I mentioned earlier, we will send a link to the webinar recording within a week of today's webinar. I also shared the slide deck in the chat, but we'll also send a pre-production email to everyone. And if you did enjoy this webinar and want to dive a little bit deeper, there are courses listed here that Caroline teaches. So if you're interested in that, those are coming up. And we have recently had the employee well-being points for University of Minnesota employees. So unfortunately, you have to be a University of Minnesota employee to receive well-being points, but these are available, and how you can sign up for those are listed here. And we'll again send more information on that after this webinar. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you again, Carolyn, and you all have a
Mm.
wonderful rest of your day.